Hello, my name is Wyatt Dosek, and welcome to People in Perspective. Joining me on the show today is Peter Hajdani, my grandfather and an immigrant from Czechoslovakia. So, Peter, what was it like growing up in Czechoslovakia whilst it was under communist rule? So in 1955 and 56.
Well, in the lower grades, it wasn't as obvious. With the later years, you showed up more of the communist regime influence in the schools and the programs which had to learn. Later years, like 89 grades, it became more obvious who is governing the country.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And in 8th and 9th grade, you were in like our age, like 16 and 17, yes?
Right.
And so that's when you started to realize that your opinion was suppressed and your religious beliefs as well?
Well, the religious was cut out in earlier years, and the teachers were very strict. If you did not obey, you could be punished or call the parents and being punished. So you better behave. Was a program which you have to learn, and could not have any objection to it. So.
Mm-hmm. And so they would also blame your parents if you were to express anything against the communist rule, correct?
Yes, they were responsible for my behavior. Even a teacher could sometimes punish you.
Mm-hmm.
So good behavior was things to stay in a school. So I mean, stay in a class.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And with schooling, they put you right into the workforce, yes?
Well, after 9th grade, there was I entered the chemical school of production of crude oil, which was sponsored with a company which was growing in size. So it was a chemical processing plant for crude oil.
Mm-hmm. Now, could you elaborate more upon that, of how that affected you as a person growing up?
Well, it was you had to learn just to stay in a school. Otherwise, in a country, if you got out of the school, you had to go to workforce immediately, or the military in a later age. So you had no choice. You better stay in a school and finish it, because the company sponsored the lunches, and the government were very strict on somebody who disobeying.
Mm-hmm. So how would you guys, your community, how would they work around that? And was there any uprising or any like thoughts of uprising and tension?
Well, the people started being unsatisfied with the regime. Was because the democratic country before, but after the war they relented to the strict Russian control.
Mm-hmm.
and they did not allow any strikes or any gathering like here. Protests. So. Mm-hmm. The Russian decided to teach them a lesson and got rid of the government. So I just heard it in the papers, but when the Russian invasion happened, they just came in with the tanks and occupied the country with the Warsaw Pact units also involved in this. So I decided to leave the country.
Mm-hmm. And what was it like leaving the country? So I know you went to Austria first, and then the charities there helped you out to get to America.
Well, it was always, the border was strictly watched, and then soldiers were there. But in these times, the soldiers were on the side who they wanted to leave, actually could leave for a certain time period, because they want to get rid of the people who don't like the regime, so they kind of solidified their rules. So I ended up in Austria. From that, was sponsoring flight to United States. It was a charity. I ended up in New York. It was in 1969-70, in the late years. So.
What was it like for you just to end up in New York right after coming from Austria and Czechoslovakia? What was the differences, would you say, that like really stood out to you?
Well, there was some shooting in all country, but there was a calm, and you know, the New York, the high buildings, I never saw anything like it. So I stayed for a week. Then I got out a sponsor to fly into the Chicago and enter the workforce. It was a different workforce. I mean, I did not get a job in a chemical industry right away. I worked in a Western Electric for some electrical wiring I was doing for a year. So.
And these charities set you up with this job, correct?
Well, there was some Czechs organization which helped out the immigrants those days to get into the acquaintance with the system, you know, I mean, help out. So after, I think the Western Electric closed that plant, they start closing the plants, and it was in near Cicero, on Cicero Avenue. So I find a job in a chemical plant in lines.
And did you have a community that would help support you and your family of other Slovaks? And
well, they did some. We find some Czech organization and Slovaks to help us out. Basically, the Western Electric had a program for immigrants to learn the language completely, because I knew some English but not really fluent, so to help us out.
Yeah, and your first language is actually Russian, correct? And
well, there were Slovak, Russians, and I was fluent in German language, so, but it wasn't much use in a workforce.
So that language barrier must have affected you, possibly getting job opportunities and...
Well, I pick up the rest of the language quite good, so I was operating reactors for a production of glycols, and I had some supervisory positions, so I had 2 people, you know, to take care of the process.
Alrighty, well, thank you for coming on the show today. It was great to have you. And we'll see you next time on People in Perspective.